coming up with ideas of future projects, courses, books, what to work on next. That's what I want to talk about in today's podcast because I've been asked this a lot recently about how you go from feeling so confused and so disconnected to having a full vision and knowing exactly what you're going to be working on next. And so we can look at this from a micro level in terms of our specific art. So we might finish one artwork and then that comes to an end, and then we want to start a new one and we don't know what to work on next. And we can also look at this on a macro level, being huge projects like I've just done. So I've spent the last 3 years with a kind of idea in my head, but not knowing what it is or how to make it happen, to now launching a platform called Creative Living. And I've done it for United Art Space as a whole. I've written a book. I've created many, many different courses, collections of art, and then also created our big 7 Keys course, which is my signature course, and also the Hobby to Pro. So there's been loads of things that I've created over the last 10 years specifically online and 20 odd years now in the creative industries. And it got me thinking today about how I see this struggle in other people. And so this might be a good conversation for us to have in case it helps you. So one of the things that I've really learned over the years now is the desire to create something, the why it matters, and the internal curiosity and drive to create something is where the magic happens. That is where we create our best work. It's when we most feel aligned and when we feel that something is pouring out of us that is very much us. And I say this and it sounds really obvious, but there have been many times in my life, and I've seen in other people's, where we get stuck in a rut making things or working on things, creating things that we don't feel any attachment to, that we don't feel connected to. Maybe we did once and we don't now. Or maybe we were just so lost and we saw someone else creating something and we thought maybe we should create that because we don't know what else to do. So at times, then there will be a shift and a calling. And I think one big part of this process is identifying that initially, that inner desire, that calling, that itch you can't scratch, the feeling of something doesn't feel right, or I feel like I want to go in a new direction, but I don't know where that is. Whatever it is, that there'll be an initial stirring inside of you. And I think the first thing to do is to notice that stirring and to not be afraid of it. Many people are sometimes afraid of, what does this mean? It means change. It means now I've got to think of a new idea. It means that maybe I'm going to be going down a road and I don't know what it looks like and I don't know what step to take next, and this feels safe, or and so we can resist and we can fight this phase often. And so it's about recognizing it and creating some space then for whatever it is next to arrive. And I find space works. For some people, it might be the doing. I like to create a little bit of space. And in that space, I like to plant some seeds. And the seeds that I plant are curious thinking around, what is it that I have done before that I would like to bring forwards into my next chapter or my next work? And I like to look back a little bit and think about what I'd like to be bringing forwards and what would I like to leave behind. And we do this in our new Creative Living platform. and it's called Delve and Shelve. And you can do Delve and Shelve on a macro level, micro level. So specific pieces, big projects. And I start there with looking back. And some of the things I'll be looking back at are, what are some of the things that I've really enjoyed in the work that I've created from the past? What is it that really made me feel connected? You know, these are the kinds of questions that I'm pondering in a phase of feeling like something's off, or I'm being called in a new direction, but I have no clue what it is. And if it's related to my specific work, I'll do this exercise. I'll get all my work out. And I did this recently, and it helped me get clear on my next steps. So I'm thinking of delving and shelving, and also thinking the opposite. What do I want to leave behind from these pieces? What do I not like about these pieces? And that might be specific techniques, but it might be certain times a day of working, or certain places of working. And I start to delve and shelve, and start to then plant seeds of what I want moving forwards. And for bigger projects and bigger change, what I then start to ask myself is, how do I want to feel, and how do I want to spend my days moving forwards in the next 3 to 5 years from now? What's some of the wording? And quite often, most of my biggest projects, biggest platforms that I've created, that have generated literally now nearly 2 million, or we're over 2 million, I've lost track, and I can't believe I'm even saying that. And it's not just about the money. Some of the things that I've created that haven't made any money have been some of the best things I've ever created. But equally, I can't believe, as someone who struggled all their life financially, ended up making things, creating things that has brought in so much money. And with all of it, money aside, whether it makes money or it doesn't make money, it comes back to the same fundamental things for me of absolutely loving what it is that I'm creating, having a deep connection to what it is. So these questions for me are really important, thinking, how do I want to feel? How do I want to show up? How do I want to spend my days? And that's quite often then led me to create platforms with those simple questions at the beginning, because originally it was working around my children, it was being around creative people, it was working flexibly to be able to go for walks whenever I want to go for walks. It was the simple things like that that led me to create United Art Space. It wasn't me sitting there going, I want to create a big platform online. That didn't come first. It was thinking about the life I wanted to live that came first. Very much like what I've done now recently with the Creative Living platform. It came from those questions. How do I want to spend the next 10 years running United Art Space? How do I want to show up? How do I want to spend my time? What do I want to be creating? And then I didn't know the answers to that. They were seeds that I planted, questions that I planted, that I didn't know the answer, but I knew that I wanted to be around creativity. I still want to be online because I love community. I love connection. And I then started to ask the question, like, what am I good at? What is it over the last 10 years, looking at delving and shelving? What is it that I want to take forwards into the next 10 years? And what do I want to leave behind? And some of the things that really stood out to me were how I live, how I design my life with intention, how I create, because creating is in my core. It just fuels everything. Like, creating is massively important to me. And learning and going back through that design cycle that we go through as artists, where we start with nothing and then we move through and we create something, we get it out in the world. Like that circle, I love it, which I call the creative way. And then finally, it's the mindset. The mindset work has been massive for me, really working on myself as a person, the way I think, the way I approach myself, the way I approach others, the way I interact, the way I connect, really noticing where my thoughts are going, being open. It has literally changed my life looking at that part. So to me, that over time, this started to come through. It was a long process of a few years of thinking about, what do I want to leave behind? What do I want to carry forwards? These are the foundations of my life. I want to teach those to other people, and I want to live and breathe it every single day, because that's the way I love my life. It's how I've built everything that I've built. So that over time then led me to build a platform called Creative Living with those 3 pillars. And now it's out in the world. This was a 3 to 4 year long process of trying something else and it flopped, and trying something else and it flopped, because I was trying to come up with something and couldn't grasp it. And then over time, asking these questions, how I want to spend my days, what do I want to move forwards, that then led me to build Creative Living. Now I feel like I've got such a strong, powerful vision of what Creative Living is going to become online and offline. And it is going to be the foundation that carries me through the next 10 years. It is so unbelievably exciting, having been in the fog for a few years. And I've always said I've been that type of person. Give me a project, give me something to focus on, and I'll go for it. But when I'm sat in limbo and I'm sat in uncertainty, I don't like it. So, but it's normal. It's a normal place to be. And I think when we're in that zone of uncertainty, grey fog, it's sitting with the space, creating the space, asking the right questions, not rushing for the answers, feeling our way through it. And like I say, you can do this on a micro level with artwork. What was that piece telling me? What do I want to delve and shelve? And we can be stuck, come to the end of making this piece, and then there'll be so much information in that last piece that will carry forwards and guide us into the next. And trusting that process of everything following through that we're doing into the next. And that's where we grow and develop as a creative. And that's why I love this pathway I've created, the Live, Create, Become, because they all sit independently, but they all influence each other. And the more we create and the more we live with intention, the more we become the person that we are, born to be. We are all born, I believe, with this inside power that we have for ourselves to live a life on our own terms, whatever that looks like. So the becoming is that it's us stepping into the person, the creative that is inside of us. And also, the more we create, we become, but then also the more we work on the mindset, the more we do create and build the life. So they all feed into each other. And so sit with that if you're in a season of change. I know many of you are, who I've heard recently say that this ending and the year of the snake, we're coming into the year of the horse for those that follow that. And so there is this last bit now, and there's a lot of change happening in the world. There's a lot of influence coming from external factors, whether we realize it or not, that impacts the change that we go through as creatives. Creative people absorb from external factors, and we can pick up on that. And so there might be change happening because of that for you too. And navigating change is about trust as well, I think. Trusting that, using your intuition and being guided by what feels right, knowing that each step you take, no matter what it feels like is happening at that time, that you are moving somewhere, you're going somewhere. And I think that's a big thing, trust. And then finally, I wanted to add one last thing for me. And this is what I teach in the Creative Living, is building your own community, connecting to other people, connecting yourself and your creativity to others is what inspires you, guides you, feeds back. It's such an important part of the creative process, being around people. It also dictates the life that you live in terms of who you spend the most time with. And for me, I've built a great network of people, and I feed off that network of people. So there's definitely a lot of internal work going on, intuition about what I want to create and what I feel connected to. And then there's also this kind of co-creation with other people and being connected to other people. And especially if it's something that you want to sell, that part is massively important. It's about getting that balance of creating something for yourself and for others. But also, if you're not selling, I still think this is important, this co-creation and connecting with others and letting that feed your creativity and being inspired by others. It really does influence where you're going and what you're working on and the next steps. And that's been really profound for me. So sometimes a lot of the decisions that I've made in relation to courses that I've created, to the book that I wrote, Your Art Matters, it was definitely a mix of both of those things. It was like internally, what am I being called to do? What have I loved to do in the past? And then also, what do people want? What have people been responding to? What are people asking? And what are people struggling with? And how could I help here? And so for me, that's what the co-creation has looked like. For you, though, it might look different. It might not be listening to other people, but feedback on your work from other people that helps you take the next step forward. People are everything. That's why I've built United Art Space, to connect people. And that's why we've launched Creative Living, to be this space like art school where you're bouncing ideas off each other and you're working together and you're developing. And so I really think that's key too. Okay, that's it, my friends. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. And I'll be back next week. Okay, take care. Bye.